Awareness is the number one key. Awareness of yourself, of your habits, of your feelings, of how your body feels, of your mind, and also of your environment. So that, because it's like you can't change something if you're not even aware you have that habit.
Welcome to the Onward Podcast. Thank you for joining me here today. Every week, I share an episode where I interview somebody about how they faced adversity and how they moved forward. And also, we talk about how they discovered themselves along the way. In each episode, you'll get insight, inspiration, and practical tips so that you can apply them in your life as you move onward in the face of adversity. I'm your host, Emily Harmon. Today, I'm meeting with Pragito Dove, and she is a global authority on expressive meditation and the founder of the #1 Expressive Meditation Training School in North America. We talk about the importance of investing in yourself, listening to yourself and others, being compassionate with yourself and others, and we talk about why awareness is the master key to your transformation from suffering to peace. You can learn to be the person that no one can manipulate, intimidate, or persuade to be other than who you are. Let's get to the interview. Pragito, welcome to the Onward Podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
When I saw what you submitted when you signed up, I knew that this was going to be a good interview. You're a global authority on expressive meditation and the founder of the #1 Expressive Meditation Training School in North America. And you're also an internationally recognized author, hypnotherapist, coach, speaker with 20 years of experience. So you help entrepreneurs and leaders and CEOs align their mindset to allow more peace, time, and financial freedom. So where were you when I was a senior executive in the Navy? When I needed you. I love what you do. Tell us more about it.
I love what I do too, because this was a journey. I didn't start out like this at all. In my childhood, it was a very chaotic household with a mother that was very abusive and, let's say, difficult. So what I learned to do to manage the whole thing was I shut down my heart because I was just getting so hurt. I had so much pain in my heart. And I shut down saying anything because I was always shut down if I said anything very much. So I didn't have any opinions. I just learned to sort of be quiet and keep out of the firing line. But I did promise myself inside that as soon as I could, as soon as I was old enough, I was going to get help to heal all this pain. I also had a lot of fear because I was actually terrified of my mother. And I had a lot of anger because I couldn't express myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. That's such a tough feeling. And I think we're starting to realize more and more and more how our childhood impacts our adulthood.
Yes.
Even more so than we used to with all this studies on the brain and things like that, post-traumatic stress disorder, things like that.
Yeah. Well, and the good news is it can all be healed.
That is good news.
Yes, it absolutely can. Well, because I healed myself, so I pretty much think anybody can heal themselves. And I certainly remember exactly how I did it so that I can share that with my clients and students and hopefully cut short their suffering and bring them into joy much quicker. So, yes, I think I just prayed to find people to help me. And I did. And I ended up going to India to study meditation, which was not what I thought I would be doing, but that's how life goes. And I started with an enlightened mystic called Osho. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he taught a very wide range of meditation techniques. So certainly the traditional sitting, which everybody knows that's what meditation is. So I certainly learned that. But he also taught this range of expressive meditation techniques. And this is where I think I really found my way home to myself, because in these techniques, in the first stage, we express out our anger, our frustration, our joy, our laughter. And in the second stage, you sit in silence. And so the idea is to sort of take the lid off the pressure cooker first, because I had a tremendous amount of emotional turmoil. I had a lot of tensions in my body because my body was trying to kind of keep everything under control. And of course, I had a lot of an overcrowded mind.
So what you're saying makes sense to me, because when I retired, I had a lot of, in May of 2019, I had a lot of things I had to deal with, not necessarily from my childhood, but with my former husband, just things like that. And my coach didn't make me, or didn't require me to just sit and meditate quietly, because if I tried to do that, I would just cry. I couldn't do it, right? So
Yeah.
she had me do like breath of fire and Kundalini yoga kind of meditation. It was more like this heavy breathing. I don't know if that's kind of the stuff you learned. I didn't like yell out my feelings, but I can see how that would be really helpful to do.
Yes. So there's a very powerful technique called the Gibberish meditation technique. Now, this is actually an ancient technique from the Sufi tradition. And in the first stage, in Gibberish, which is any kind of nonsense sounds, you express out everything that needs to be expressed. So I had a lot of blocks in my throat from all the things I hadn't said because I wasn't allowed to. And I had all this rage and frustration and so on. And so you dump it all out in the context of a meditation technique. And then the second stage, you sit in silence. And I'm telling you, it is the best thing in the world to get rid of all that stuff and find your inner silence, because when you've got rid of a whole bunch of tensions like that, then it creates a space inside you.
Right.
In that space, you drop down to your center, 2 inches below the navel, where the inner silence and the peace and the calm is, and you fill up that space with the inner silence, with wisdom and peace. So you're shifting what is happening inside of you. And an opposite kind of expressive meditation technique, and one of the most popular ones, is the laughter meditation. Because when we've repressed all these feelings and emotions, we're also repressing our joy, our laughter, our fun, our playfulness. Because when we repress everything. You can't pick and choose, well, I'm going to repress this and not that. It's just how the subconscious works. And in the laughter meditation, I started unleashing all the laughter that I'd never been able to express all through my childhood and through my life. And the laughter meditation is definitely, of the wide range of techniques I teach, the one that is best for unleashing creativity, for joy, playfulness and fun, and everything that comes along with that, which is a lot. Like the law of attraction, you raise your vibe up to a higher level, and then you start attracting good things into your life.
A question, how is that better than talk therapy?
Well, I think talk therapy does have its place because that works with the understanding mind. And it is important that we understand what we're doing if we're doing these expressive techniques. And I know this because as a hypnotherapist, I work with the subconscious, but I also have to work with the person with the conscious mind on the understanding level. But where the expressive techniques are different is that you are unloading probably lifetimes of repressed emotion that you didn't even know was there.
You can talk about it because you don't know it's there.
Yeah, you don't even know it's there. Like I would never have known that I had repressed my laughter. I was all focused on the anger and the pain, the bad things.
Right.
And then to my surprise, I find, oh, I've got all this laughter as well. And that helps with balancing things so that life isn't all bad and a veil of tears and horrible things, that we also have equally this incredible resource of joy and laughter. And the laughter, the more you do it, it helps heal the pain and it helps heal fear, because you can't be afraid or worried and laughing at the same time. So the
How old were you when you discovered when you went to India?
I think I was probably in my late 20s.
Okay.
Because my marriage fell apart. I had my son by then, but my marriage fell apart. It felt like everything was falling apart and I had to find a solution.
Well, you weren't ready to be married either, probably, with all that stuff that you had to deal with from your childhood, but we don't know that when at the time you were young and in love, right?
Well, exactly. And what I was taught as I was growing up, that what I had to do was get married and be a housewife. That's how I was kind of programmed, so that's what I did.
Yeah. So can somebody go on the internet and look up this type of meditation and do it on their own, or do they need a coach? And why do they need a coach if they do?
I mean, for example, the laughter meditation, you can do it on your own. But the reason I recommend a coach, I think perhaps the laughter meditation is the only one you could maybe do on your own. But all the others, I do recommend a coach. And some of them actually have CDs to accompany them with very specific music that's been created for that particular expressive technique, like the dancing meditation, for example, so that you get the benefit of the wisdom of that coach and do it right. Because if you don't do it right, then you're not going to get the results.
Yeah. Yeah. So your results were that what were your results from doing that kind of meditation?
Well, I found myself, because I'd been so heavily conditioned to not speak, to not say anything. I didn't have an opinion about anything, So basically, I found myself, my true, authentic self, my laughter and joy, and my creativity. And then I found I was a speaker, a writer, a teacher. I've been a teacher for so many years now. And so that was incredibly gratifying. And of course, I also found inner peace, which I don't even know I knew what I was looking for when I went there.
Right.
It was so bad. I had to go and do something and try this out. But once you found inner peace, then everything falls into place for you. I mean, it's just amazing.
Okay. I got so many questions I want to talk about. Were you an only child? What's your relationship with your mother now, if she's still alive, or when you got back from India, how did you handle your relationship with your mom? And then also, how do you find inner peace?
Well, let's start with inner peace, because actually it's very simple. The inner peace is already there. Every one of us is born full of inner peace and wisdom and love and joy. In fact, that's our essential nature. That is who we are. We are love. We are peace. We are joy. So if we're not in touch with it, it's because layers and layers of tensions and stress and emotional turmoil and all of that have been layered on top of it, so that we end up living from the neck up. That's what I just decided to live in my head, because it was too much pain and too uncomfortable to want to go below the neck. So you have to be willing to declutter yourself, to express out all of these tensions that are in the way. And then the good news is the inner peace is just right there. It's always been there. It's already there for everybody. It's just to get rid of what's in the way. A bit like if you go down to your basement and it's full of stuff, then you put the light on and you think, oh my goodness, look at all this clutter. You get rid of it and you can clean it, and then it's just this beautiful basement. So that's the same with us.
Well, one of the things I do in my coaching program is I have people declutter, because I think when you declutter around your house, it helps declutter your mind, and it helps open you up to finding that inner peace.
Yes, it does. And they reflect each other. Our lives on the outer reflect how we are on the inner, and vice versa. So you can either start with the inner decluttering or you can start with the outer decluttering. But either way, they will affect each other. So now I don't have any clutter in my house because it's just not acceptable to me. But if you start with decluttering, I think that's great, because then you'll start to realize you have decluttering to do within as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And some of my clients have discovered that along the way. It's been very interesting what they've discovered while uncluttering, even like some things that brought back memories.
Yeah.
Had to shed or deal with, right? And pain that they had to deal with that was in a box in their basement. and they forgot that it's down there, but it's still holding them back.
Yep, absolutely. That's absolutely right. Because we hang on to things. These are the patterns in our subconscious where until we have become aware of them, the first thing you have to become aware we have these patterns. But then when you do, and you start to let go of them, then you start to let go. Your outer life changes. It could be that you let go of a dysfunctional relationship. You suddenly think, what am I doing with this guy?
Yeah.
This is crazy. I've done that for sure. What did I ever see in him? And we realize we have to move on. And each time our lives get better and we feel better inside. We have more peace and less turmoil. It sort of goes in stages.
Very interesting. So were you an only child?
I was the younger of two girls. Mm-hmm. So I had an elder sister who was actually exactly like my mother.
Oh, boy.
Yes. So it was very tough. And I absolutely loved my father. We had a great relationship, but he was not in his power. So he didn't stand up for himself, let alone stand up for me. So it was completely dominated by my mother. And then, of course, my sister. So all I could think of was, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my relationship with my mother and sister never improved because they were fixed on their path of negativity, both of them. And it was very painful for me to realize that. Mm-hmm. I spent actually years trying to see if I could find a way to connect with them, but I never did. And I had to accept that they had chosen their path and I had chosen mine. But what did change was me. So instead of fighting them and hating them, which is what I used to do, I found compassion for them. And that was quite profound for me, that I could see, well, particularly with my mother, that I could see her as a person who was trapped by her own negative conditioning and her upbringing.
Right.
And just, well, really, she just wasn't willing to see if she could create something better for herself. Because I asked her so many times, why don't you do some things so you're happier? And she just would always say, oh, it's too late now. Yeah. And I would say, no, it isn't. But she just really didn't want to. Or sometimes I think maybe her self-esteem was so low that she just didn't think she deserved it. And yet she had everything. She had a loving husband. She had these two lovely daughters and house. She never had to work. So she had all those things. But I learned an interesting lesson from her when I was a child and I remember it was when she got this fur coat, which I know you probably shouldn't talk about that now, but anyway, that was in the day. And I remember thinking as a child, oh, now she's got this coat, she'll be nice. But it didn't make any difference. She was just as miserable and abusive. And I started to realize that happiness was nothing to do with how much money you had or what you had. I learned that when I was quite small, because nothing my father gave her, nothing she had, made her happier. So that was interesting for me to see that about a person. But I did, when she left her body, I was able to be present with that and surround her with light, with the help of all my angels and every divine guide I could call in to help. And so she did go to the light. I know that.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that you were there, able to be there.
Yes. And so that was gratifying for me, at least, because, this is her journey and her karma, which is actually nothing to do with me, except for the fact I chose her to be my mother. And so one of my major lessons has definitely been compassion in this lifetime. And that took a while because I had to heal my own pain first. It's difficult to feel compassionate for somebody else if you don't feel love and compassion for yourself, and you're just in a lot of pain. And it wasn't till I was able to heal the pain enough that I could start to see her in a different light.
What would you say to somebody who says, I'm fine just the way I am. I don't have any pain. Everything's perfect in my life. I don't have any pain. What would you say to somebody who feels that about themselves?
Well, I don't know if anybody like that would ever come to talk to me because people usually come because something isn't right. But if that's what they feel, then so be it. It's not for me to tell them you could be even better, which is
Have to want it themselves.
they have to want it. And I found that with clients and students over the last 18 years that I've had my businesses, they have to want it.
Right.
And they have to be willing to do that work. In fact, I said that the other night to my group. You have to want it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there to be had, the inner peace, for example, and the joy. And I can show you the way, but I can't do it for you.
Right. And you have to want it. I think about my kid's dad who passed away last December, and he was verbally abusive when we weren't married at the time he passed away. We had been divorced for a while, but I can see that a lot of things that he needed to work on, but he had to decide for himself. Like he had a house full of stuff that I'm sure he was buying off Amazon and all these different things he was buying. That's a sign of, it was just piled up, looking for love on the outside and not looking within. And then he'd say he was fine, but you can just see that he wasn't, but I couldn't help him because he had to see that for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think especially with women, this is a big generalization here, that we want to sort of save people and rescue people. I mean, I certainly did, especially with my mother and my sister. And it was painful to realize I couldn't.
I couldn't have to work on yourself.
Yep. I had to keep the focus on myself. Mm-hmm. And at least I came to that place of compassion so I could send them love, even if they probably didn't receive it.
So tell me about hypnosis, because, some people, I've been hypnotized once, I think it was, but I don't know that it was really real because I was on this stage and they're like, who wants to volunteer?
Oh, gosh.
So tell us about what hypnosis really is.
So that can really give hypnosis a bad name, those stage things. Yeah. So, hypnotherapy is what I do. And it's based on relaxation. That hypno is the Greek word for sleep. Only the way I work with hypnotherapy is I take my client into a guided relaxation, but not to go out, because I want the conscious mind present, because that's the understanding part of us. And it's also the businesswoman part of us. Why am I spending time and money on this? That's the mind will ask that. And you want to get a yes from the mind because you want the mind to be on board with the deeper work we're doing. So you want the mind to understand and to come along on the journey. And then when I've taken the person into a deeper state of relaxation, but not actually going out, and if they do go out, I call them back because I want them present. Right. Then, it depends what we've decided or they've told me they want to work on. And that can be anything at all. So common topics are finances, I don't make enough money, I don't have enough clients, or weight loss, or a pain in the body. Although I always have to have the disclaimer, I'm not a medical physician and you must continue with whatever your doctor told you. But what you can do with hypnotherapy, for example, with pain in the body is, let's say it's your elbow. We can take this journey into your elbow and talk to your elbow and ask it, what is happening here? What is the pain? What do you want to say? And give it a space so it can talk. And it does. And it's quite extraordinary. Wow. And a lot of the time it's some kind of trapped emotion or old pain from some childhood, which is just manifesting through the elbow. And then you can do this deep healing on what is the original root of the pain. And it can make huge shifts in how you feel in your body. Or you could discuss, we can ask, for example, supposing it's a relationship problem, when did you first, let's say it's an abusive relationship, I might ask, when was the first time in this lifetime, I always stick with this lifetime for the most part, that you first were verbally abused in this way that you are now? When did that first happen to you? And there'll always be a situation as a child. Then we do the healing around that because that's the root of the problem.
What if they can't remember a situation as a child? Like, what if they don't really remember their childhood?
Well, it comes up because I invite their subconscious to reveal to us, today. What is at the root of this problem? And it does.
Yeah, because that's where all the trauma is stored, is in our subconscious.
Yes. And so I've been doing the hypnotherapy for about 23 years. And this is why I do it individual sessions and not in groups, because everybody has different dramas and different issues. So those blanket sort of group sessions can only do so much. And because I know how to go deeper, let's do it. Let's heal the root of the problem. And then everything starts to open up.
Can you do it over Zoom?
Yeah, I do it Zoom or the phone. Absolutely.
Because you work with entrepreneurs, leaders, and CEOs to help them align their mindset to allow more peace, time, and financial freedom. So you do hypnotherapy, you help them with this, with the meditation, and what else? Is that what the main areas where
Yeah. So the meditations are always in groups, like small groups, online groups. I do have it, and I do a lot of training. So I do have a in-person training coming up in October, which I hope will happen because they're very powerful. I'm in the middle of a training right now, actually, which is really fabulous, a meditation training. And then I do the hypnotherapy in private sessions on the phone or Zoom. Yes. So a lot of people do both. You don't have to do both. Some people prefer the private, some people prefer the group. But I found between the two, we can get you where you want to be.
You had, when I asked the kind of things that you want to talk about, one of the things you said, one of your points is invest in yourself. And I really learned that when I retired, because I worked for the Navy my whole career as an officer or a civilian. And the Navy invested in me, but it was in areas of training where, like, some leadership and how to use this IT system or whatever, in areas where they needed me to improve. But I never really learned a lot about myself. And I never went to a coach. And the first time I talked with some coaches, and they were like, this is the price. I'm like, that's a lot of money. So I had to deal with some money issues. And I think you help with that. I had to deal with some money issues. I had issues about money. You got to save it, don't spend it. That's a lot of stuff that we learn as growing up. But really, if you put money in flow, invest in a coach, I improve. I'm such a better person. And it comes back to me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And actually, I have a fabulous video here of a conversation between Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett said, the person I turn to is myself. And he said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Yeah, which I know to be true. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in myself over the years. And boy, has it paid off. And it's paid off financially. It's paid off health-wise. It's paid off on every level. It pays off far beyond what you think.
I agree. It took me a while, but I've invested a lot since May of 2019 when I retired, and I don't regret. I mean, there's a couple things that, in hindsight, I probably didn't need to do that training or that, but most of it, it's just really helped me out so much.
Yeah.
Just to be a better person, to know myself better, and then I can live more authentically and just learn more about myself, because I didn't learn about myself when I was in the Navy. I learned about how to be in the Navy.
Yeah, exactly.
I read self-help books and stuff, but it's different. Reading a self-help book is different than like really working with a coach.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it really is, because you have to be accountable. Because the next week, the coach is going to say, so did you do those things? Right. No. Okay, then. So why are we doing this if you're not going to follow up? And
you can read it, but you have to apply it. And you can get so distracted that what helps me is, and I'm somebody who gets stuff done, right? But knowing I'm meeting with my coach next Thursday, I'm going to get the stuff done.
Yeah. And also because you paid them.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so why am I spending all this money and then I'm not going to follow through?
Right. So I really like that. And then you say, be compassionate, which we've already talked about. Learn non-judgment and self-acceptance. Then you have more acceptance for others. And you talked about that. And then you wanted to talk about why awareness is the master key to your transformation from suffering to peace. Awareness.
Yes.
Awareness of what?
Awareness is the number one key. Awareness of yourself, of your habits, of your feelings, of how your body feels, of your mind, and also of your environment. Because it's like You can't change something if you're not even aware you have that habit.
And that's exactly right. I remember one of my coaches would ask, where do you feel it in your body? I'm like, I don't know. I know what I think, but I don't know where I feel. Where do I feel it in my body? That's a weird question. And why are you asking me that? But it's so key. I've learned.
It is. And I ask that question in every single hypnotherapy session. When we get to the feelings, where do you feel this in your body? Because it's coming down from the head into the body, because the body is the key, because the more relaxed the body is, the more relaxed the mind will be, the more relaxed the emotions will be. So always start with the body. And people are often surprised, oh, I thought you started with the mind. No, that's a very arduous path to start with the mind. You start with the body and ask yourself simple questions like, is my body relaxed right now? And you might find you have a habit of clenching your fists, or sticking your neck out, or you don't sit as well as you could if you paid attention to how you sit. And it's all these little things, did you get outside today? Did you go for a walk? Are you keeping yourself hydrated? And when you focus on the body and all these simple things, it can bring about huge changes in your overall well-being. And of course, the number one reason I think to do all of this is for your health.
Yes.
Because without your health, where are you going?
Nowhere.
Right.
That's really hard for like entrepreneurs, CEOs, because they're just so busy. And they think, I don't have time for that stuff, that self-improvement stuff. But really, it's so important, because it's you a better CEO.
And it's interesting you should say that, because I had this conversation with one of my clients actually just yesterday. And her mind had come into, I don't have time, for all these practices and all this kind of thing. And I do know she takes a dog for a walk for about 30 minutes every morning. So I said, well, it's very simple. When you're taking your dog for a walk, just see if you can remember to be present with the dog, with a flower or the wind, or just bring an awareness to, right now I'm taking the dog for a walk. Yes. It's very simple. And you don't have to do all kinds of extra things that take up time.
No, yeah, I agree. Like sometimes I'll take my dog for a walk and I'm on my phone and checking the phone and all that. You're not present, right? So
yes,
I leave my phone. And yesterday I saw a red-headed woodpecker. I wouldn't have seen that red-headed woodpecker if I hadn't been present.
Yes.
So yes, it's in the day-to-day things, like when you're washing your dishes, notice the water, notice the sounds,
yes.
Just notice more.
And be present. Now you've hit the nail on the head. It's all about being fully present. Meditation is awareness. Meditation is being present. So any activity can be a meditation.
Yeah.
Being on the phone with a client can be a meditation, as long as you're not also on your computer or doing something else.
Right.
Then you're divided.
Right now, it's meditation now, because we're doing an interview. I'm not focused on what I have to do later today or tomorrow, or I'm not like trying to multitask. I'm looking at you in the eye. We're conducting this interview and we're both present.
Exactly. So this is the interview meditation.
Yes. I count it for my meditation of the day.
It totally counts. Yes. Anytime you're fully present, it counts. And another thing that I talk about a lot is enjoying yourself, which is a sort of dimension of the laughter meditation. Are you enjoying yourself? This is a question you can ask yourself any time of the day. Am I enjoying myself? If the answer is yes, that is great, because when we're enjoying ourselves, we are in harmony with ourselves and the universe. There is no division. The mind is not somewhere else. We're not trying to do something else because we're enjoying ourselves. Yes?
Yeah. And if you find day in and day out, you're not enjoying yourself.
Yes.
There's things that you can do about that, right? I think a lot of times we're like, well, there's no way I could switch to another job. It's COVID. There's this, there's that. I mean, I know that there's everyone has extenuating circumstances, but sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing something different and we just settle for the status quo instead of pulling in all your resources to help you see what you can't already see. What could I do with what I have now to get to a point where I am in harmony, where I am enjoying myself more than I'm not?
Yes, exactly. And so I think when you're not, when the answer is no, I'm not enjoying myself, you have two options. You can either cultivate an attitude to enjoy whatever it is, like taking out the trash, if you don't like taking out the trash, but you do something you have to do. So change your attitude and start enjoying it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like the job or another activity in your life, if you don't like it, we'll change it. Just like you said, get another job or get another friend or whatever it is.
I like your thing about attitude, because one day my sister was trying to help me with logging my food into MyFitnessPal, right? And that's an app where you log what you ate. And I'm like, it's such a pain in the neck. I don't want to do it. But she's like, oh, I love it. I can't wait, because I love balancing my macros, making sure my calories are right. I treat it as a game.
A puzzle. There you go.
So I thought, well, all I have to do is change my attitude about it.
Yep.
Decide to treat it, to think of it in a way that makes it fun.
Yes. There you go. Yeah. Make it into a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mary Poppins did with the children.
Mm-hmm.
Remember tidying up your room? And then she made it all fun in a game. So they were totally into it. And they just did everything she said.
Yeah.
Because she made everything fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Like sometimes I hate cleaning, but if I looked at it this way, that's a time where I can listen to a podcast or I can listen to fun music that I don't get time to do, instead of just cleaning without the music on or not, then I feel like I'm being at least a little more productive while I'm cleaning,
Yeah. And then you can, I changed my attitude to cleaning, putting on dancing music or listening to something on the radio, podcast or so on. And also I saw it as a meditation.
Ooh,
to be present.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So let's do the cleaning meditation and be present. And the most powerful one I did was my driving, because I always used to drive, like this with my shoulders up and driving like this. I was always late and full of tensions. And of course, I started to get a lot of tickets. Expensive. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make this a meditation. I'm going to leave earlier on purpose so that if there's traffic, I still get there in time. And if I get there early, that's a good thing, because then I can just relax and hang out before meeting this person or whatever it is. And I started to enjoy driving.
So what would you say to someone who's like, I can't meditate. My mind's wandering all the time. If I'm driving, my mind wanders and then I fail at meditating.
Well, it's the first thing is to understand what meditation is and what it is not. Meditation is awareness. So if you are driving, you are aware that your mind is all over the place. That is actually a great awareness to have, because then you notice that and you can say to yourself, oh, okay, let's try and be present here with the driving, because it all starts with the awareness. If you're not even aware your mind's all over the place, well, then nothing's going to happen. But if you have the awareness, then you can change it.
And it takes practice. I mean, somebody else that I've talked to talks about, like, you don't go to the gym once and lift weights and your muscles don't grow. And you say, well, I guess I failed at weightlifting. It's just like you don't try meditating one day or a week and say, I guess I failed at that. You just keep practicing, bringing your mind back to being present. And then over time, it takes less effort to bring your mind back. You're finding you're more in the meditative state than not. But it's not going to happen like that.
Yep. And that's exactly how it works. And when I just recently said, understanding what meditation is not, meditation is not a technique. So a lot of people think that sitting like this or going or something, that is meditation. But that is one technique. It's a technique. And there's hundreds and hundreds of techniques. There's over 100 in my latest book. But the important thing to remember that meditation is being in the present moment. Meditation is awareness.
So your book, you have a #1 best-selling book, Lunchtime Enlightenment. Do you have 2 books or is that the one book?
Yeah, I've got Lunchtime Enlightenment right here. This is my latest book. And my other book, Laughter, Tears, Silence. Yeah, that was published about 10 years ago. Yeah.
So tell us about your books.
Well, this one has got the expressive meditation techniques in it that I was talking about, and it's got explains what meditation is and what it is not.
Okay, so a lot of it we covered, but it's good to have too.
Yes, but there's a lot in here, and I cover the 8 main principles of meditation, which are relaxation, laughter, witnessing the mind, non-judgment, trust, love, compassion, and awareness. Chapter for each.
Like a really good book.
With techniques for all of that too. So
you put in here too that I think you're saying that with mindfulness, we can help heal this divisiveness and create understanding across differences. We need some of that in this country right now.
Yeah, we do.
Thoughts on that?
We need it in the world. So the most important thing is to be connected to ourselves, to have compassion for ourselves and acceptance of ourselves, because it's only when we have self-acceptance, self-compassion, can we understand anybody else or have compassion or acceptance for them. So it all starts here with ourselves, with the individual. And then you become better at listening, because listening is very important to the other person's point of view. I mean, I know people who vote differently than I do, so they have a different opinion. But I've come to understand that they're entitled to their opinion. They're entitled to vote how they like. That doesn't mean I have to dislike them or hate them, but accept the differences and be open to dialogue if that arises without judgment. You have to take the judgment out.
Which is so hard. We all judge.
And that's where people get caught up. And I think actually that judgment is the number one cause of suffering in the world.
I can see that. And a lot of times, one of my coaches told me when I was talking about an issue with somebody, she's like, when you point your finger at somebody saying they, or this, that, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. And that's so true. So let's look at you, because your life is a mirror of you. And the only person you can really work on is yourself.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Yes. And then we can bring about extraordinary changes that we hadn't even perhaps envisaged could happen. And we also have to trust that other people are on their path with their karma. And it's just not for us to sit in judgment on them. But certainly our own worst critic, it comes from our own mind.
Yes.
So the more you judge yourself, the more you judge others.
So that's a mindfulness thing too, is to notice what you're noticing. Like notice how often you're judging yourself, your inner critic, other people, and then bring your mind back to the present. Because I don't know that you could be judging. I could be judging somebody else. I could be judging you while we're doing this interview. But if I notice myself judging you, no, we're having this conversation. Let's get back to the conversation, right? Because we all judge.
Yes, we do. But when you're in the present moment, there is no judgment because the mind is not there when we're in the present moment. So the present moment is a place of non-judgment and love.
It's not there when you're in the present moment. What's there?
The mind only exists in the future and the past, but it's not there when you are fully in the present moment because you're just in the present.
And that explains why you can be like so engrossed in a task and look up and you don't even know that time had passed.
Yep.
Because the mind isn't there. You're focused on that task.
Yep. And you've enjoyed yourself. Yeah. So the mind takes a lot of vigilance.
How do you explain the mind? Because some people think the mind is them.
Yeah, I used to think I was my mind.
So who are you? How do you explain that? How do you answer that question? Who are you?
Well, you are the witness. Yeah. That's who you are. And you learn, well, if you want to, you can learn this technique called witnessing the mind, which was created by the Buddha 25 centuries ago and is still probably, I think, the best technique for learning to disidentify from the mind, so that you're not at the effect of it, because the mind has a tendency to the negative.
Yes.
Like, this is bad and it's always going to be bad, you know? So that's the nature of the mind and understanding that. So what you could learn to do is bring yourself back to neutral because sometimes it's difficult to go from a negative state to a positive state. But bring yourself back to neutral. The Buddha said the middle way. Always choose the middle way. And they teach this in sports psychology as well for mental strength with top athletes. Come back to neutral, because when you're in neutral, you can look at the situation as it is. Like, let's say you play tennis. I'm a big tennis fan. And let's say you just lost the first set, 6-love. So that's not good.
Right.
So you sit down at the changeover instead of giving yourself a bad time, oh, I'm never going to win this match now and all that kind of thing. You just sit there and you go, okay, I lost the first set, 6-love. And then what happens is the mind will kick in to come up with solutions. This is how the mind can help you. Okay, so what are we going to do in the second set? Well, you could come in more, you could serve better and come up with solutions for you. So that's a great little technique to bring yourself back to neutral. And neutral is the present moment. Neutral is reality.
Oh, I love that.
So we're not saying, oh, it's great, I just lost the first set.
Right. We're not going from bad to positive. That's
right. We're going to reality. Okay, this isn't good. But the mind, as I said, it becomes emboldened in a way, the mind does, to offer helpful suggestions, because the mind likes to do that. And when you learn to understand the mind and how it works, like, for example, it likes lists. Mm-hmm. It loves lists, because then it's got something to focus on. Okay, so you have to do this and this and this and this. We're going to do these things. And then you've got your mind directed in a focus. And slowly over time, you become the master instead of the mind dictating to you and bossing you around with all these negative thoughts like, well, what's the point in doing that? That's never going to work kind of thing.
Could you also be a little detached from the mind instead of saying, I am so frustrated, say my mind is telling me that I'm frustrated and this is happening.
Good. That's good.
I'm in control of my mind. So I'm going to bring my mind back I'm commanding it to come back to neutral, and then I'll work with it. Right. But if you're like, I'm so frustrated, I suck, I'm terrible. No, my mind is telling me that about me.
Right. And I would even take that one step further and call it the mind.
The mind, not my mind. The mind.
The mind. Because then you disidentify and become objective just a little bit more. And you can start to understand when you become the witness. I am the witness here, and I'm witnessing that the mind is going off in this negative thing. So, this is really how you take control, and you become the master of yourself.
Oh, I love it.
So when the master is shining the light, because the master is present, which is you, the witness, okay, mind, we're not doing that. We're not going over there. We're going to be here and look at this situation, the reality of it, which is we just lost the first set. Mm-hmm. Okay, what are we going to do about it? So that you can always keep moving forward in a positive way, but you don't have to go into kind of false positivity, like everything's great all the time, because it isn't.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Or being happy all the time, because we're not.
Right.
So we take that reality check in the middle, in the center, and then we have choices, because that's what awareness gives you, is choice.
Right.
Okay, I feel really angry right now. Okay, I think I'll get Pragito's book and look up a meditation where I can dump out my anger, because anger can cloud us and you don't want to repress it. So you can express it out, then sit in silence, and then come back to neutral, and then look at your options.
Wow. Such a helpful interview.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pragito, for being on the Onward podcast.
Well, I have really enjoyed this. It's just been a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much.
Pragito is an awesome guest. I love her idea about laughter meditation, about doing the dishes meditation, about cleaning the house meditation. She has so many different kinds of meditation. It really changed my whole view of what meditation is. Meditation is awareness, and awareness is the key to transformation. I hope you get a copy of her book and apply some of the techniques you learned today. Have you joined the Onward Movement? The Onward Movement right now is a Facebook group, but soon we'll be getting together and having events, hopefully in different areas of the country. I'd love to start leading some retreats. We're a group of people who really want to embrace our authentic selves and release the fear of judgment so that we can create the life of our dreams. And the Onward Movement is free. Just go to the Facebook and groups and search on Onward Movement. Also, I've started a coaching program. It's called the Onward Accelerator Coaching Program. And you can be in the Onward Movement and learn a lot of tips and things for free about how to create the life of your dreams. And if you want to accelerate that, please join the Onward Accelerator Coaching Program. I have a group program, and as well, I have one-on-one coaching. If you want to learn more about that, just go to my website, Emily Harman, HARMAN.com, and click on the button to schedule a time to talk with me. And we can talk about it some more and see if it's right for you. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for listening.